Chapter 4. After the Argument. Eddie sat in a cafe not far from the office, dipping his teaspoon into a large cappuccino, and tried to think of what he could do about his job. He could leave, but that would mean giving in and letting Dominic have exactly what he wanted. Besides, it would take several months, possibly a year, to find another good job, and he would still have to put up with him in the meantime. He could officially complain about Dominic's behavior. He had a strong case, but that would only make things worse. Somehow Dominic had Gary, the CEO, on his side, and Anne Blake, the financial director, would never support getting rid of Dominic, since she had hired him in the first place. "He's unbelievable. He actually said I was too hands-on," said Eddie, stabbing at his drink with his spoon. "Really?" said Clive, who had left the office and found Eddie sitting in the cafe. "Yes. He also said I wasn't a leader and that Moscow was his deal." "You're joking," said Clive. He seemed genuinely surprised. "That deal was yours. Everyone knows that." "Then he said my communication wasn't good enough." "Hey? He can talk. He's got no people skills whatsoever. Anyway, he never reads his emails." "I know. I told him that. He says I should phone him." And Eddie laughed in disgust. "He's never there." "Exactly. I said that too. It's pointless, Clive. He doesn't listen and he interrupts all the time. He's so smug. He thinks he's right about everything." "At least you're not alone. Everyone has the same problem with him." "Well, what is his problem?" "Well, it's obvious. He's insecure." "Well, it's not obvious when you're sitting in a meeting with him. He's a bully in a shirt and tie. All bullies are insecure. Maybe his dad didn't show him any love. Maybe his dad's worse." Eddie tried to smile as he looked out of the window, as if the answer were out there somewhere. Maybe if he were to look long enough, the answer would come and find him. He doubted it. He was exhausted. "Clive, how do they get to be in charge, these people? They're utterly useless. He's useless. Yes, and he knows it, deep down. That's why he picks on people and moves responsibility. No one actually knows what he does. Yeah, and by the time they find out, they have to pay him a year's salary and then he gets another job. That's his skill, though. He talks well to the top guys. But the real people don't respect him. I spoke to someone at Gallagher's the other week, where Dominic worked for about 2 years. They said the same thing. Do you think he has any idea what people really think and say about him? No, I don't think he does. He's so superior in his own mind, he probably thinks we're all losers. But he knows I'm good. He knows you're good too, and that really irritates him. Because we know this job and he doesn't. He just moves tasks and people around all day and calls it strategy." "I know," said Clive. They both stared out of the window. "Did you hear what he said to Steve the other day?" asked Clive. "No, what?" "Dominic told Steve that he got the top job because Anne and Gary saw him as a wise ambassador." "Wise? Ambassador? Ambassador for what?" "Who knows? He's in his own dream world." "Did he really say that?" "Yes, and when Steve questioned it, Dominic then said he was older than anyone else anyway." "Unbelievable." "Who knows what he thinks? He's not like us. I think that scares him." "Where do these people come from?" "I don't know, mate, but they soon move on. We just have to hold on. Look on the bright side. It couldn't get any worse." But Eddie wasn't so sure. Eddie had the feeling that things were going to get a lot worse. And he was right. Back at home, Eddie spent the evening trying to catch up on the work he'd missed that afternoon and looking at the many emails he had sent Dominic. It was a nightmare. Again and again he considered walking away from the job, but it hurt him more simply to give up. Besides, he was enjoying the Moscow project, and he had done so much work for it. When he was in Moscow, he could get on with things. He loved Russia, and he loved the people there. It was such a different world from the UK. And the owners of Zaria, Dima and Tatiana, always made him feel so welcome. Over time, Eddie had had to explain to them some of the difficulties back in London, and they had been very helpful. Eddie was reading one of Dima's emails and smiling again when Lynn walked into the room. "Will you be much longer?" asked Lynn. "Maybe. I'm behind on some deadlines, and today's battle with Dominic didn't help." "Just leave it now, Ed. Come to bed," said Lynn. "I can't. There's so much. Too much." "There's always too much," Lynn replied. "It will still be there in the morning. Give yourself a break." "Yeah, well, that's true. But with Dominic, I have to be extra careful. He picks on everything." "He's an idiot." "Yeah, I know it, and you know it, and everyone else knows it. But he's still the boss." "Well, what I mean is just ignore him." "How can I ignore him, Lynn? He's the boss. He runs the division. He runs me." "Well, don't let him," said Lynn. "I'm not letting him," shouted Eddie. "I'm trying to stop him. That's the problem." "There's no need to shout, Eddie. I'm not deaf." "Well, you're not being very helpful." "Thanks a lot," she said sarcastically. "I'm doing my best." "Sorry. I was hired to build a team, win a project like the one in Moscow, and make things profitable. He was brought in to oversee the whole division. Then he gets bonuses for doing very little, and I get the blame when the numbers suddenly don't add up." "Your numbers are fine." "Not according to Dominic." "Why?" "Oh, well, during our useless meeting today, he brought up that old story about being £25,000 over budget, when everyone knows he fixed the numbers. Somehow he gets his bonuses and puts any blame on me. I'm almost certain now that he wants me out, Lynn." "Surely not. He needs you. If it weren't for you, good people would have left ages ago. Besides, who else could move Russia along?" "Oh, don't mention Russia." "Why? That's your big success story." "Oh, he keeps going on about the fact that he won the Moscow contract, not me." "What? That's just not true." "I know." "What about Anne and Gary? Can't you talk to them about all this?" "They've changed, Lynn. I've hardly seen them since the new partners came in. Besides, Gary and Dominic are always playing golf at the weekends. Anne's okay still, but she's very political, and I think she's embarrassed that Dominic's upsetting everyone. After all, she was the one who recruited him." "And human resources? Can't you report him to them?" "What do I tell them? That he's got the people skills of a goat?" "Well, that's one thing. And the intimidation, the lies, and the..." "It's very hard to prove, Lynn. He's got his back covered, and they would only report the whole thing to Anne and Gary. And then what?" "Well, presumably they tell Dominic, and you all get together and sort it out." "Easy, really? Why didn't I think of that?" "You know what I mean, Eddie. There's no need to be sarcastic. I'm only trying to help. I hate it when you're like this." "Well, you're not living in the real world, are you, Lynn? You're a primary school teacher, for goodness sake. If things go wrong, you all get into a circle and sing a song about it, or draw a picture. It's not that simple when you're in a multi-million-pound business and..." But Lynn had heard enough. She was already leaving the room. Eddie stared back at the open screen on his laptop, at hundreds and hundreds of emails. He thought about how much more he had to do before he could go to bed, about the hurt he had caused Lynn, and about the injustice of Dominic and of people like him. Eddie slammed down the laptop lid. The job was broken, the evening was broken, and now his relationship with